It is Tuesday, listeners, and time for our regular check-in with Elko City News in advance of the regular City Council meeting today. So pleased to have our Elko City Manager, Jan Baum, joining us in studio for the update. Welcome, Jan, and Happy New Year.
Well, thank you. Yes, thank you for having me, Lori. And you're right, we have City Council this afternoon at 4 p.m.
So we'll go over what's on the agenda. There's some exciting things ahead, obviously, for the city, deep in the planning stages of choosing an architect for the City Hall project. So we'll talk about the scope of that. But let's see, I just wanted to back into the regular agenda today. Tops on that would be an overview. Oh, yeah, I wanted to compliment Julie Davis. She put together this great presentation, Fast Facts about the budget process.
Exactly. So it's the budget in brief. And this is a new document that she created, and it is a great high-level summary of the City of Elko budget, the process, and kind of where our revenues and expenditures, where our revenues come from, where our expenditures go, as percentages of the budget. And yeah, it's a great quick summary, very easy to read, and so yeah, I'll be thrilled for her to show that to council, and then once she's presented that to council, we'll make sure that that's on our website as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's where I was able to download it. It's attached to the agenda, Jan, and it is a great, you could just call it a handout. It's 2 pages. You know, once you print it out, it's front and back, a couple of pages, but it's something you could simply have. It's handy because it gives a complete overview by the numbers of the budget in brief for the City of Elko. Elko City's total budget is $104.9 million, in case you were wondering.
Right, and so a lot of the information on that budget in brief is for fiscal year 2025. So some of that spend and revenue still includes ARPA, which is a big portion of is really quite a bit of money. So some of those numbers are maybe a little high, but you can see from the trends, she's got great graphs in there, very easy to see, and you can see that the revenues are decreasing, the expenditures, and the fund balance. The fund balance is decreasing, and part of that is because the ARPA money came in. It's now being spent, and so we, going into this budget cycle, we'll definitely need to be looking at our expenditures, making sure we get those under control, and we don't, and make sure that we're not eating up all of our fund balance. It's not unusual for the fund balance to decrease on occasion from a year to another year, but we need to make sure that we're not eating up our fund balance on operating expenses, and then and then we lose the fund balance. So it's definitely an art to make sure that the budget is in balance, and Julie does a absolutely amazing job, and I'm excited for her to show that to council.
Jan Baum speaks from experience as our previous financial services director for the city, and again, knowing just how important it is to keep a close eye on that bottom line. Elko does run conservative when it comes to budgeting and financing, but again, just keeping an eye on the reality of that. I know it's probably much too early to say, but I thought about it once we got to the airport fund. We were going to be talking about the big project there. Do we know if there's any impact yet, concerns about the federal freeze of grants, loans, disbursements by the federal government? I know it's a temporary pause, Jan, but it's you.
Right. So we actually just talked about that in our directors meeting, because obviously it affects a couple different departments that we have. So Jim Foster with the airport, he's the airport manager, and he has a couple different grants right now that are, about to be issued. One of them is the AIP funding for the ramp project. It's a big project, approximately $5 million, and so it has a tight construction period on it, and so we all know that the construction period or whatever in Elko is quite short, right? So if that is delayed too long, we'll have to delay that project again, and we really don't want to do that. So, but he was, I believe, maybe a recipient of an email that said, just heads up, a lot of the granting is put on hold until it's reviewed or whatever at the federal level. But we're hoping that this doesn't impact this project. And then he also has a SCASD grant, which is a small community, air service development grant, and that one, I believe, as well is likely going to be delayed. We were expecting that in January, and that hasn't happened yet, and so that one might be delayed as well.
Mm-hmm. And that one, unfortunately, is tied to our quest to get those midday flights back on SkyWest.
Absolutely. So, yes, we were hoping that SCASD grant, that's what it was for, is to help Elko Regional Airport secure a midday flight. And so we were anticipating, because of the delay, at first we wanted it in April, but with the delay, we didn't receive it in December. And so we were thinking in January, then we can start that probably beginning of May. We're still hopeful that we can do that. It would be great to have that midday flight before the Mine Expo comes to town and get those flights loaded. So we're hopeful that we'll get there, and we're going to schedule a meeting with the Department of Transportation. That's who issues the SCASD grant, and then we can ask them some of those questions for sure.
That sounds great. And this one in particular, I think there were 2 phases, maybe 2 years, unless I'm mistaken, but about $400,000 over the 2-year period, or was this a different one, Jan? Do you
the
recall?
SCASD grant? Actually, it is $400,000 for 2 years, so $800,000 in total.
Perfect. Okay, if we get it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And those funds will be used to help with the minimum revenue guarantee, referred to as the MRG. And that what the MRG is it's an amount that we need to pay SkyWest to provide the flight. They'll continue to come to Elko, but they will not lose money to come to Elko. And so we make sure that there is a minimum, well, we don't make sure, they make sure that there's a minimum revenue guarantee and for them to continue to come. So the more full those flights are, the less the minimum revenue guarantee. And so that's really our biggest quest. Just if people fly locally, fly on SkyWest into Elko and utilize our flights, then that's the lower the MRG is for, and then it makes it easier to have flights. And so we're hopeful with that 400,000 that we can bring in. I don't think we'll be able to bring in daily flights because of the low budget, but we're hoping maybe 4 days a week.
Well, anything would be an improvement, Jan, certainly. And
absolutely.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Jan Baum is our city manager. I think you mentioned 2 departments that could be impacted by the federal freeze of grants, loans, and disbursements, or did you just mean the 2 grants within the airport, or is there another department impacted?
Well, for sure right now the airport, and then currently we have our meter modernization, our water modernization. As of right now, the state says that we will not be impacted, but with the new memo that came out today, it's just hard telling because a portion of that is a bond and we're paying for that. And so that's not really, a grant. But there was a small portion of that project that they were going to forgive. I think it was about $1.5 million. And so it might impact that, but I'm really not sure. And then not too long ago, we received an email that we would likely be granted an energy grant. And so we'll be on hold for that as well, likely on hold. And with that, our intentions, we're hoping that maybe we can use that Department of Energy grant to put some new windows in the golf course clubhouse and make it more energy efficient.
All right. So still awaiting, just like everybody else, to see what the impacts might be. Again, it's described as a temporary pause, so nobody is supposed to get too excited. Nobody from City Hall or Elko Broadcasting is circulating a bunch of memes saying the sky is falling, Jan. So we're just trying to pursue this responsibly and just let the public know what the reality is.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, over the last few years, there have been a lot of grants issued in many different communities. And I don't know. I'm trying to be positive about this, and maybe the thought is we just need to look at what's going out, make sure that it's all being utilized properly, and there's no waste. And so, being a little conservative myself budgetarily, I can respect that.
Absolutely, Jan, and I think a majority of people in Elko County and anybody who has to budget can understand that. And the ARPA money, that the city has already dispersed that, correct?
Yes, most of it. And actually, the ARPA money was front-loaded, so they sent us the money in advance, and then we do reporting and show how it's being spent, and then all of the priorities and the obligations, that was the key word for ARPA funds, those all had to be obligated as of December 31st, 2024, and they need to be spent in full by December 31st, 2026. And so every quarter we do a report to the Treasury Department that says what we've spent, how much we have left, how much is obligated, where it's obligated, and we will do that obviously until December 31st, 2026, which time I'm sure we'll have most of it spent, and a lot of that was water projects, right? So, and those projects are moving along really well.
Jan Baum is our Elko City Manager. We picked the perfect person to come on the radio today to describe this unfolding news here regarding the finances and the federal disbursements that come through the city. Thank you, Jan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
4 o'clock meeting today at City Hall. That in particular is not on the agenda, but I'm sure if anybody wants to discuss it during reports, it wouldn't be an action item, but folks can certainly, talk about that issue. So
absolutely.
So part of the budget process, and then moving on to the Jennings Way paving project 2025, the city does have money set aside for this, and you did get a whole bunch of bids, which is always positive, but let's see, you came down to one suggested, if you wanted to talk about that. Now, this will complement the Veterans Cemetery. Is that what we're looking at?
Absolutely. So the VA Cemetery on Jennings, it is right north of Adobe, the Adobe Middle School, and our junior high, whatever they call that. And anyway, it's going to be, they're really working on it. So if people are curious, go drive by it. It's they're really making some headway, and it's a really large property. And I think I'm just so excited for this property and this project in the city of Elko. We're so fortunate to have it. And so anyway, yes, the city of Elko has committed to making sure that there's a good road getting to the VA cemetery. And so that's what this project is. And we were thankful that the bids came in a little less than budget. Unfortunately, one of them, the lowest one, was non-responsive because a form was missing. But we will be, or staff will be recommending that council award this bid to Ruby Dome Construction, which is great. They're a local construction company in the amount of $402,600.
All right. Again, we should just mention too, the VA cemetery, although a federal project, it's not a loan or a grant. It's actually an appropriation, I understand. So it shouldn't be in jeopardy.
Right. I think you're right. I don't think it is a grant or a loan. The city of Elko really has nothing to do with that project. They're coming into our community and doing this development. So I think, it's just a really exciting project.
Speaking of exciting, next on the agenda under new business, Jan, would be the proposal, the lease is the Northeastern Nevada Museum is moving ahead with their planned expansion of about 63,361 square feet.
Yes, we're so excited. We're excited for this museum expansion. The museum just fits right into the park environment, right? It's a family-friendly environment, and we're excited for them to finish this, or start and complete this expansion. And so I believe they're going to have a really nice Native American exhibit as well as a mining exhibit. And so both of those items fit perfectly into our community and will be good education for not only our community but our visitors. And so the city leases them a small, really the footprint of the building, and so we just need to expand that area. And so that's what this item will do.
That's very good news, Jan. There shouldn't be any concern about that. There will be an extension of the lease for at least another 20 years. And as you mentioned, it's very complimentary. And we're looking forward to having the museum. They're going to come on the radio and talk about this. And I know Nevada Gold Mines is firmly behind the project because their construction of the mining portion of the exhibit will also support the Native American exhibit as well. So.
Exactly, yes. I believe NGM has a big part in this expansion and, supporting that. And so, yeah, it's an exciting, exciting project for the city of Elko.
Well, if we look at agenda item B under new business, Jan, we may have already discussed that, but yep that's the rehabilitation of the air carrier terminal apron phase 2. We're just kind of going to wait and see right now, huh?
Absolutely. So we have been formally awarded the bid and had the grant. I'm so sorry, but anyway, we're hoping that goes forward and that funding comes through.
So yes, so that is again will be held up a bit. This is, let's see, is it an action? It is a possible action item, so it'll be up to the council to decide what to do, Jan.
Right. This is the contract between the city of Elko and Q&D Construction to do the apron project. I believe it was the last meeting, council approved the acceptance of the grant. And so, and honestly, I think that we've already, got engineering on this job. Our engineers for the airport has, already put a lot of designing things like that in there. So, I don't think that this grant, I don't think it'll hold up our grant.
Good. Okay.
I guess that's the way to put it.
Yeah. No, you're fine. And again, this is all just news that's sort of evolving. It'll be up to the council. They'll have I'm sure, a lively or robust discussion anyway. And if they decide to proceed, then they can also, the action item would be to, let's see, the staff authorization. I think that they could, sorry, I'm reading on the fly, federal funding, non-federal funding, the grant offer. So whether or not the action item would be what is the action item? Oh, to approve the contract. So you could maybe approve the contract just in anticipation of the grant because you're not actually releasing the money. So
right.
I don't know. I'm not on the council. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was trying to help people understand. Yeah. Okay. So then moving on to, as we talked about, let's go to the Airport Advisory Board. This is really a bright note because you have 6 people interested in serving on a 7-member board.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great news. And actually we have 6 letters of interest, and there's usually 7 on the board, but there's usually a council member. And that was Mandy Simons. And so as part of the motion, we will ask council to appoint one of the city council members or ask which one would like to be on that board. And then that will make 7.
Yeah, that's great. It's always good to have odd numbers on these deciding boards. Yes, for obvious reasons. So that'll be discussed again, but great to have so much interest. I believe this group is going to help steer plans for the Return to Sky Fair 2025.
Absolutely, right? Happening in September, hopefully. So that'll be great.
Then moving on, there is a request. Oh, yes, this again is more exciting news, and it's just about providing architectural services for some possibilities. It's being called the City Hall Project, Jan, right? Because there's not really a set project, or I was looking at the request for qualifications. The current building has finance, the city clerk, human resources, city manager. There's some utility buildings, modulars that are parked out back. Basically, the scope of the work the architect will decide, right? Help the city decide if an expansion is most prudent or starting over somewhere else, or... Absolutely.
So yes, that's what we're hopeful that the firm will provide us, a feasibility study per se, and a preliminary design. So you're right, we have a city hall right now. It houses maybe half of our staff, and then we have the 2 modulars in the back, and then we're scattered out a little bit. So our recreation department is down at Fire Station number 2. Like our IT department is out in a little building by the airport. And so it would just be really nice to consolidate everybody into one building. I'm well aware that the police and fire and the airport will continue to be where they are. But it would be very nice to have, the other departments in one building. So that is what the architectural firm will help us tackle, is do we expand current City Hall? Do we build a new City Hall on the land we own behind City Hall? Or do we look at a different location altogether? We've had people say, well, why don't you just build in the park across the street? Well, that's all encumbered. And so, we're not going to build, we can't, unless we would clear that encumbrance, and that would be a big feat. So anyway, they'll help us through that process, and then also help us determine, how many square feet we need for that many people, and equipment and things like that. And of course, chambers. That's the biggest part of it. We need to have our Elko City Hall city chambers accessible for our public and available. And so I'm excited to see what comes out of this contract. And so we actually had 8 firms that replied to this RFQ, which is amazing. It created a little more work for us, but that's okay. It was great to have choices, and all of them were very great firms. We consolidated that into 3 different firms, and we had a committee of 3 of us, and then we had in-person interviews with 3 of the architectural firms, and our recommendation will be Lombard Conrad, but obviously council will make that final decision.
Yeah, it's great, again, to have so much interest. This architectural firm, by the way, has a lot of experience in designing for government, which is important because they understand that budget is probably paramount. Lombard Conrad most recently designed the White Pine County Justice Center, and that was in 2021. And they are also responsible for the Nanini building, the Elko County annex to the courthouse, if you will. Plus, they've done numerous projects in Elko County, even for the city of Elko, the school district, Great Basin College. So very familiar with the work of the committee of the firm that was chosen by the committee, Lombard Conrad. So that'll be up to the council to decide.
Absolutely, yes. And we have a lot of faith and trust in Lombard Conrad. Honestly, the other 2 firms that presented to us, which were Collaborative and HA, I believe, they both did a great job, and I think all 3 of them are very capable. It just seemed like this one is the best fit.
All right, so that's all on the agenda for this afternoon's regular council meeting that starts at 4 o'clock today. You can follow along in person or online. You can go to Elko City, I think it's elkocity.gov or .com. Either one will get you there. You just Google it. It's super easy to follow along online, or they always welcome people who are in the chambers there at City Hall.
Absolutely.
Let's see if we're getting close to the end here. There is a public hearing at 5:30 p.m. Oh, and this has to do with a zoning change. And I couldn't see, unless there was an attachment that I missed. I don't know where the zoning change is planned. It looks like going from public, quasi-public, PQP to residential, single-family, multiple-family residential. And it's not a huge area. Let's see, about 2.5 acres? Or 2.5 square feet. That couldn't be right, is it?
Yeah, so 2,500
Oh, I'm sorry.
square feet. Yeah.
I need my glasses. Okay, that was me in denial. Thank you.
Yes, so we actually had the first reading of this item on the last city council, and so this is the second reading, and it's kind of a housekeeping type issue. So, but the agenda is it's fairly short, and so we will likely need to have a little. We have to wait till 5:30 to do
there'll be a break in there, I'm sure.
So there might be a little break today, but we'll see. We'll probably do staff reports before we hit the public hearing, and yeah.
And just a pro tip, if you need cheaters, put them on, because especially when you're doing a live radio show. But yeah, so the Planning Commission did approve this in their public hearing January 7th, recommending to the council to adopt the zoning district boundary amendments. So that'll just, again, provide an opportunity for more new housing, it looks like, in the community.
Right.
Okay. Another meeting that is not related to the city, except that I think, Jan, it's important to note that the city does have some representation on the Elko County School District Capital Projects Oversight Panel. They're going to be meeting at the same time as City Council this afternoon, but their meeting's at 4 o'clock in the Nanini Administration Building downtown. Again, it's a meeting that you can Zoom into or you can be there in person. But this is the panel that basically has oversight of our school properties, right? And the capital, the property tax that's used to fund any improvements.
Correct. Yes, I believe so. And the plan going forward for those improvements, right? So there's full disclosure, all transparent of what the school district is going to use their capital funds for. I believe, yeah, that's kind of it.
And there is a city representative on the panel, right? Is that, or not on this
Not
meeting?
on that panel, but I believe on a committee.
Like a subcommittee or something.
Yes, and it used to be Mandy Simons, who, termed out at the end of the year. And so our new council person, Marissa Lostra, will likely take her place on that committee.
All right. So among the agenda items of the actual oversight, which I do believe is the county commission, it may be some other members or some county commission liaison, but they will be reviewing and discussing current and future school district capital construction and improvement projects. They're going to give an update on the Owyhee Combined School Project, which is really important, $64.5 million. Apparently they did get one responsive bid, and the school district is really excited about that, and they will decide whether or not to accept that bid in their February meeting. So that's still to come.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And then review and discussion of all credits to and debits from the fund for capital projects that established by the NRS. So it's part of the update. And then an Elko County ad valorem tax rate recommendation. So there's going to be a recommendation for possible action to the Board of Commissioners to increase or decrease the ad valorem tax rate dedicated to the school district capital projects. So, because we all know that created a bit of consternation when we all found out that we did in fact have a tax hike.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a small tax hike.
Yes. So whether or not people are going to live with that or we'll find out today, right?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that was around, there wasn't a clear understanding of exactly what that bill or the legislature was dictating. And you're right, it was a small tax, or was a tax hike when everybody thought there would not be one. So.
Jan, thank you as always. Is there anything that we didn't get to? We have time, if in the couple of minutes we have left?
No, I think I'm pretty good. With the warm weather, I just want to mention at the golf course, this winter we did not open the temporary golf course. The driving range is open for 4 or 5 hours in the middle of the day. And but the temporary golf course is not open, and there are some reasons behind that. When the clubs are hitting on the grass that is dormant, it does make some impact on the ground, and then it takes a long time. Once the grass starts coming back, those places don't come back as quickly, and sometimes they will die, especially if you have a divot. It just doesn't grow back like it does in the spring or summer. And so James Wiley and his team, and Austin, who's done such an amazing job out there, they've decided, for the betterment of the golf course as a whole, it'd be better just not to have the temporary course going, but they are having people are able to go out there and hit balls at the driving range, and so feel free to do that if you are so inclined, because we're having unusually warm weather.
That's right. If you don't mind those January winds, and March will be here before you know it. And that's usually when we look at starting to open the golf course. So
absolutely, and we're excited for it to be here. It's going to be here way sooner than I thought. Rick Longhurst shot me an email last week and said, "Where are we on some things?" And I went, "Ooh, it's coming fast." So you're right. March 1st will be here before we know it. And with this weather that we're having, I hope we get some rains. But that golf course will definitely be open and ready for play.
All right, Jan, thanks so much. And in closing, I would mention the only thing that I'm aware of, we've been trying to report on some changes at FISH, Friends in Service Helping, and apparently there was, I don't know what the correct word is because we were hearing things in the community. I tried to get firsthand information, but apparently the previous director is not there, and I think that was by her choice. And Jennifer Koopman has been appointed as the interim director of FISH. But this is important news because they are serving. Now they're into the thousands of people, families, children, adults, residents, not just travelers.
Absolutely, they are servicing a lot of our community members, and I believe that they service lunch, and they're just an important service to our community. And actually, I have a meeting this week with Jennifer, so just to see what she's going to give me an overview of what they do down there, and I'm going to go down there and have some coffee and see what's going on.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Wonderful. Again, FISH does rely on a lot of grants, a lot of money, whether it's federal passed through the state, the generosity of the community. I think people really came through at Christmas time, Jan, but that's what I understood, that this big change came as a result of maybe not getting some of the grants that they were hoping to get to sustain FISH. So
that's too bad.
We'll have to find out about that. Might be an opportunity for local churches to step up as they have done historically. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Jan Baum is our guest here on Elko Live today. Our Elko City Manager City Council meeting opens at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you, Lori.